Howdy, folks. You're listening to Demon Dayz, an actual play podcast with a focus on fiends and the friends who play them. Wanted to give a quick shout out to KiloWhat, who does the artwork for our show. Amazing as always. Go check out her stuff. All the important links will be in the show description. And then I also wanted to point out that we have a Discord where all of us hang out, have a great time talking about all things nerdy, all things tabletop. There's something there for everyone. So come hang out with us. We can't wait to see you there. Let's get on with the show, shall we?
Friends, fiends, President Juggers and I aren't on speaking terms at the moment. I might have dropped him, there might have been some crackage, there's two sides to every story, and that's not the story we're here for today. So before we get started, I'm gonna need one of everything you have. Thank you so much. Okay, story stuff. The party were teleported to the King's Palace in Skypoint and met up with Fetter's Aunt Fee and Yusuf's old friend Zephaniah. We pick up right as they begin their exit of the palace and head into Taslinn's home turf. Now, gather round and lend me your ear, and I'll continue our journey through these Demon Days.
I'll lead you guys out. And she walks over to the door, opens it, looks out, sees nothing, and she's all right on the stealth front. If you guys want to stealth out of the castle, that's fine. She's doing it.
No, I think we're almost going out. So
okay,
I'm almost wanting to be seen by certain people, but also like I want to maintain a pace of at least half my movement speed, so that I can just, like, eye for detail, like, the whole way out of the castle. Like, I know we won't get, like, a full lay of the land, but I definitely will walk, at a stately enough pace that I can just be clocking shit, like, the whole way through.
Gotcha. And Zephaniah does notice that you're doing that, and the way she's leading you guys out of the palace, she's allowing for the most maximum ability for you to do that,
right?
And kind of taking you guys to you two, it feels like an awkward pace. Taslinn and Yusuf, just on a subterfuge level you're not used to, but it is.
What are you talking about?
Or maybe you're used to.
Yeah, I'm used to this.
That's your shit.
That's your shit.
That's my shit. I just do it differently.
If anything, yeah, you do it differently, so it's a different pace. So it's a bit off-putting at first, but you guys get through the foyer, which is huge. It lives up to its name as the Grand Foyer. As you're heading down, you see a statue of King Lugarius on horseback, sword and shield raised triumphantly. Two sets of stairs are heading down. It's a big area which leads out, and it's massive, grandiose, excessive, obnoxious, any of all those things. You get why Fee loves it.
Yeah.
How very Neilish.
Yep. And you get to the doors that lead out into the palace entrance itself, and each door features a likeness of King Lugarius as well. And there's etched rays of sunlight emanating from a halo on top of his head. There's no question as to how the King of the Dominion sees himself. As you pass through the double doors, you see two elite Dominion guards. And the way you guys exit, you would think like, oh, they would see us and maybe raise a stink. But with Fetter, the way you're walking, and Zephaniah's stealth that she's rolling, you guys just pass through at just the right time where the two guards are deep into a conversation about what constitutes a pizza versus a calzone. Like, is a pizza a sandwich? There's a really inane argument going on there, and you happen to catch some of that, and it's as you might expect, given.
I kind of just briefly glance at the gnome and then kind of back to the guards without missing a step, and just kind of nod my head in a nice kind of way.
Yeah. And as you pass by them, you notice that, as you've seen before, these guards just got the benefit of the city's entire defense budget. Armor and weapons are pristine, and spell books attached at their hips. The helmets feature like fluffed magenta feathers, and just ostentatious. And they haven't seen combat. Not that makes them any less guards, but they got some nice equipment.
As we are like walking by, can I take just a very quick second to look in and do some passive investigation about what kind of equipment they have and what they like what the little guard tower would look like?
Sure.
A little bit more in depth than what you said.
Okay, yeah. Just them or the like each of them, what they've got, or the tower, or what are you talking about?
Well, each of the guards, just
Okay.
kind of doing a little bit of a passive investigation on
Yeah,
it
go
to
ahead.
get some more discerning information. Well, my passive is 16.
16?
So,
Oh, yeah. Okay. It's everything is new on them. Like the spell books attached to their hip are newly leather bound, gold trim, featuring designs of the Dominion. They're easy to access, so you get the sense that if they have a magical element to them, and that they can just pull their spell book at the ready. Their swords also have runes etched on them. You get the sense they can also do stuff to their swords to like either smite or there's an element of holiness to their weaponry. There's an extra magical elements that they can add to the weapon.
Yeah, which that's probably new.
Yeah, so it's new. It's like there'd be extra pluses in any attacks that they're doing. They'd be hitting pretty hard, and their defensive, their armor is sturdy. Like it's new and it's sturdy. You get the sense that with what you guys have, you'd have to hit them a lot before you did much.
Right.
So like just the two of them alone as elite guards are a bit of a threat. But these particular two, as you walk by, they don't seem very threatening. They seem just a bit distracted. It's the afternoon. They are on the kind of the less attractive shift here, where no one's coming and going, and they're just bored.
Yeah. So,
But they're packing a lot of heat, so to speak, and
Sure.
everything's new, and they know how to use it. And you don't recognize, like, you've never seen this level of detail and newness to things. Guards that are at the bottom of the lift that you guys will get to eventually, they don't have that. And the further out you get, the guards have rusted armor, and you
Yeah.
guys, the AC, from an out of character perspective, the AC would be much lower. You guys would be able to hit them really hard, really fast, and I mean, you guys in the sync would know that it's the guard down in the city proper are kind of a joke. Here, not so much.
Well, I mean, I've definitely played cards with guards that were at least at the very entrance to the Neil and probably worked in the Neil, but definitely not to this degree of...
Yeah, and despite them being bored and having a conversation about is pizza a sandwich, they are not the type that would go down that far to ever encounter either you or anyone along those lines. Like, they wouldn't... If they have vice, it might be up further with the noble or the nobility, and it might be a little bit more conservative, elements of fun, more theater or things like that. It might not be vice. They're a little bit more straight laced, and as you guys are going to keep walking through, you'll see that it just gets less and less straight laced the further out you get, as everything at the palace has got to be just tip top. They don't get to be their own people.
I got a 22, just looking for clues, hidden stuff, anything of note on the walk on the way out.
Yeah, through the path from your room to the grand foyer and everything, you get a sense of what Zephaniah said about the unpredictability of the guard.
Right.
There's not a set path that they walk, and you try to find some sort of repetition in your walk. You guys went slow enough to where there should be, but they don't take normal paths, if that makes sense.
The guards don't?
These guards don't. No, there's enough of them, and there's quite a few, and they don't really care about what you guys are doing, just due to your roles. But one will turn down one hall, and then come back out the hall, and then back down the hall, and come back out and move around. But another guard might not do that at all, skip the hall entirely. The way their guard situation is going is that they're looking for the one to try and exploit their guard patterns. So it's almost like aware that people could sneak through and trying to counteract that with a little bit of chaos on their own. Whether it works or not, it's hard to say, but Feder, you get the sense that coming back in, just on a subterfuge level, it would be a little bit tougher without more inside information and someone helping you on the other side.
Sure.
Good, props on them. Like, as far as a palace security goes, I mean, it's good that a king has a thoughtful eye towards the security.
Yeah.
But yeah, a little bit more unpredictable than you would expect.
But hidden arrow slits, any sort of traps, any sort of
no traps.
security like that would be intentionally hidden from.
No traps necessarily, but there are enough different corridors and different paths where they try to take different ways.
Yeah.
You could see that, well, that guy went that way and back again, but no one ever went down this other corridor. There might be something like a dead end that might have an exploitable thing.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a little bit confusing, but there are a few
Right.
different areas where you didn't see any guards go to or look at or check out that are dark, forgotten corners.
Okay. Anything weird about the statues that we walk by, like the big Lugarius statue in the foyer or anything like that?
No, nothing out of the ordinary. They're
Okay.
just disgustingly ostentatious.
Cool.
You get why Fee would have done that to a room and just changed it
Right.
and defaced it.
Got it.
Cool. Yeah. And as you get past the guards, you go down a little ways through the palace entrance and out into the main area. You pass one more guard, this time huge, he's guarding the main entry into this palace. A giant elite guard. Same armor situation and weapon situation, just on a giant. This would seem out of the ordinary, and you saw some giants when you were in Trost, but this one is so professionally, they hold themselves so soldier-like and professional. The size is just the weird part about them. They seem like they belong there, but they're big. They don't respond to you as you guys are exiting out. They do see you, but they also see Zephina kind of guiding along. Oh, you guys are probably important people.
Yeah.
They're not too. A giant elite guard is more interested in bigger threats trying to burst their way through the palace, which then leads you to the Dominion Gardens, which you get into this what appears to be an expansive botanical garden featuring detailed topiaries, intricate garden mazes, fabricated ponds, miniature zoos, and all manner of art displays you can imagine. You see a few signs along the way referring to the central path that you're on right now as the King's Steps. That's basically a straight shot from here to the city lift, which will bring you to the normal and less ostentatious part of Skypoint. The better part, Taslinn, as you would say to yourself.
It's the pink.
Yep. Cross. Nice. Crossing you guys at the King's Steps, there's a path that crosses your way soon called the Path of Mages. A route that, if you looked probably to your left from where you're walking, you would see the big spire from the mage of Skypoint. So, Yusuf, you would note this there's a mage's tower there, what Fee called the Archy Spire, which is probably not called that. In fact, even the sign itself underneath and a subheader says Arcanon Spire. The topiaries and art installations get real just abstract the closer you get to that place as you look. It's normal here, very weird that way. It's just weird that way. And along the way, you see a few different nobles and nobility walking around. This seems to be a well-visited area. Pretty, beautiful, good stuff. And you're just going to keep going down the King's Step, or are you going to divert? I know that Zephina does look up at you two, Feder and Taslinn. Like, you mentioned something about the little boy, and you guys want to see him? He is that. She points towards some more art installations. Like, he's somewhere down there, running around and just enjoying himself. Or we can keep going, but we got to decide pretty quick.
I'm fine. Taz, you seem fine as well. Is that the case?
I don't know. I really have no idea.
She puts a hand. She tries to reach up as much as she can to grab onto your hand, just at least touch it lightly. Let's just skip it. Skip it for now. I don't know you, but there's some. It sounds complicated.
Sounds good. Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
Okay. And she leads you guys down the courtyard. But just knowing that part of your path is over there just feels like a big old blip on the radar, like a weird thing. It must feel weird.
Well, and I'm dealing with the fact that this is essentially a giant chunk of my world that I'm coming back into, but from the flip side, which is a little disorienting. And as much as I'm sitting here swaggering and getting into way there is an air about Taslinn that she is way more comfortable in her skin than anybody has seen her so far, but at the same time it's still real weird. And so it's like, do you want to go meet your possible brother? I don't know. Do we want to make it even more weird than it actually is, or do we want to just like save that for when mental processing is better? Don't know.
Yeah,
So,
and you're seeing a lot of stuff that you could only have imagined when you were here before, never being up here.
and I'm sure it's only gotten better since like
It's excessive, and not in a gaudy way. Beautiful. This is the most beautiful thing any of you have seen. It is a marvel of the kingdom, the dominion of Valdarian. Like this is a lot of money, a lot of resources here, and it shows. So it's weird seeing this as someone from the sink.
Yep, and there's a lot of like, we ended up fucking you guys by taking a lot of your money in various different ways, but then also like, oh boy, and I thought we were making a dent. Clearly we were not.
Yeah, a very conflicting set of
Like,
tee and oh my god, it was pointless.
yeah, very Robin Hood, but then also like, Jesus, can we never steal enough? Like,
Right. Are you externalizing that conflict in any way that they would notice or not?
No, not
Okay.
necessarily. It is very kind of on my face, but I feel like Taslinn would actually be further towards the back of the group. Yeah, thank you for marking that. That was his head, though. So unless somebody was like looking back and actually noticing her scan around and having these thoughts play out on my face, it
Yeah.
probably wouldn't.
Okay, cool. Good to know. Then you reach the end of this courtyard and the end of this. What do they call it? The gardens, and you descend a slight ramp into what appears to be an open market, an open palace market. Finely crafted wooden stalls, temporary stone structures, and large tents, whose fabric looks more well kept than some of the nobility milling about.
This is still part of the palace,
This is still part of the palace. There's like you passed the gardens and now you're in this like open market courtyard.
Got it.
Think if everything was like a ritzy suburban mall.
It's the
Middle-
Grove.
It's
Yeah,
Disneyland.
It's the
Yeah.
Grove, yeah, essentially.
Big self-contained.
Main Street, USA.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's that. And nary an ill-dressed person there. Like, this is what anyone could imagine a proper market would be like, rid of any riffraff. It is... Ugh.
Zevna.
Yes.
And I'm again looking around. I want to do another eye for detail check.
Yeah.
Who mans these stalls, and are they all local or some of these international? What's the vibe at this palace market here? Is it
It's
duty free shop? Like what's the
Actually, yes.
as
Character, yes,
renowned artisans of the kingdom? Like who is this for?
yeah, it's people visiting the kingdom, nobility, people from the nobility ward across the gap, the chasm, which she cringes as she says it, and Taslinn, you realize that that's just the pocket between where you guys are in the Neil to the part of the nobility that exists on the shelf and almost has its own ecosystem and economy outside of Skypoint. So if you and you can communicate this to them, Skypoint is draped on the landscape in an invasive way and not a very well thought out way. So the
Right.
nobility and the elite have put themselves on the top part of the shelf, and they
Right.
have like different systems of travel, either flying creature or gondola to the palace. So a lot of them come here like on a day trip to shop some
Right.
international things, and this is more of an international duty-free zone. I hesitate to say airport shopping,
Right.
but there is that vibe. But if that vibe were really rich,
Can I get a sense if any of these stalls are hawking wares similar to like Horace's, like skyshipy technology, like anything from a design aesthetic, like
oh yeah,
because didn't they have like they were working on like firearms and stuff, but like there was like mechanical limbs and you know what I mean. I'm imagining that there's a design aesthetic from that continent. Is any of that present in any of these stalls?
yeah. I would say that there's some of that. Maybe not limbs necessarily. It doesn't
Sure.
go too far as like replacement limbs and things
Right.
like that. But a lot of devices and things that would make living in your estate easier. Different.
Gold and brass and ivory and the
Yes.
style of
Yeah, it's functional and helpful and beautiful, but it's also not. It has no it'll have no use down below other than just shiny. Maybe you get some money from it.
Right.
It might not even have that much worth out in the wider Skypoint, but it's a lot of posh as seen on TV type things too.
Sure.
And
what's the makeup of like people to other races and types of people?
Oh, got it. It is mostly human
Right.
here.
Or human looking.
Yeah. There's you don't see any furbolg or any, very few dwarves, but judging from the few that you've met who have mentioned that some things were closed off with the dwarven people near where you were before, that kind of makes sense. That one's a harder one to be like, oh, they don't like dwarves here. It's just, they've all kind of been called home. A lot of them have. So there's a thing there.
Right.
A lot of humans, a lot of half-elves. Not too many elves.
Right.
And that's about it. There's you guys would stand out if not for Zephana's kind of her weaving you guys well enough through there to not be too obtrusive.
Horns, tails, and different colored skin, definitely.
Yeah.
And hooves, but
if someone were trying to really look for you guys and discern about it, they might find you. But you guys are also as someone's raising their voice a little bit politely, but raising their voice, you said it was this much. She weaves you guys through there. Mm-hmm. As there are little pockets of loudness that just distract people from you. She's kind of feeding off of your energy of weaving and going with it.
Right. 25 eye for detail for the market on anything that jumps out at me. I'm also particularly I'll look for other tieflings too if I see anybody.
Let's see. No tiefling. I'm trying to think in that area about this time. There is one particular stall you guys pass by where it is someone trying to sell knickknacks and tchotchkes of an infernal nature, but what they imagine that might be. So you're seeing representations of Avernus, Dis, all of them. They're wrong.
Right.
They're wrong. They're a touristy I've read about the hells. Here's what I think.
Right.
But it really strikes you. It's just egregious. That one is enough to stop you and be like, oh, fuck, man. How can they be so out of touch?
All right.
But other than that, yeah, everything's pretty. This is just too clean, too nice of a place.
Yeah.
And very much airport shopping, duty free.
Right.
Suburban mall shit. And eventually, you guys from there get to what is called the city lift. It's huge. It's about able to hold a dozen people and change. It's kind of this platform, with this intricate design all around it. The flourishing and the facade does a good job hiding the mechanics of it, which there's not a lot of mechanics to it. A lot of it's magical, but it's making pains to suggest that there's an analog mechanic to it for the ease of anyone traveling it. Just rich people don't want to know that they're hanging on the whims of someone's magic. Mm-hmm. There's a mechanical element to it, but there's not. It is just a magic platform, and you see it immediately once you get on there, as there are two guards, or two robed individuals inside of a magic nature, spell books, bigger robes. They are doing their magic. They're moving their hands a little bit, speaking under their breath. They don't pay you any mind. They're just the lift operators, and they kind of blend into the scenery. They stay out of focus. Even there's a magical element to that too. You notice it, but they're magically trying to just be unobtrusive. The sooner we get you down, the better. We don't want any complaints. No one being like, my ride was bumpy.
Sure. So it's palace and tower, gardens, market, and then the lift. Are there other manses and properties up at this level, or is that pretty much it?
That's pretty much it. The garden part is probably the biggest and most expansive and all-encompassing.
Right.
So if you had diverted on that a little bit for, as Stefan has mentioned, to find little thing,
right,
you would have seen different versions of that, like a zoo section, a pond section. So that's where a lot of the variance and lateral movement is.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
Okay.
You get in, and the lift starts descending, and you have a full view of the rest of Skypoint as it starts to descend. And Taslinn, you start to see more of recognizable.
There is actually a little bit of kind of the excited little as I go over to the window and kind of like prop myself.
Not even
and
a window.
actually,
Like at a certain point,
like-
you get to the edge, and you notice like the two magic users are like, No, she's not gonna jump. Okay.
Yeah, just kind of like actually kind of being like, ooh, this is cool. Like I've never done this before.
Yeah, like under their breath, they're getting feather fall ready. Just like, okay, come on. 'Cause there are no railings, there are no safety procedures on this. This is a little bit
It's just a plank on a rope, just
big metal slab going down at a gentle pace. The magic is good.
Yeah.
Like
But,
actually, okay, so then like over to the edge, sits down, maybe lays on my belly, just kind of like looking out, being like, this is cool.
Yeah, I'll kneel down next to Taz, put a hand on her shoulder, and then I'll look out over the city, and I'm also just scanning. I want to see like, weird points of smoke rising or anything weird, like anything that pops out while I have this viewpoint. I'm going to continue to kind of... Sorry to just constantly be looking for secrets and bullshit, but that's kind of what I do. So...
This is the place to do it.
John, I want to take a look at the lift itself. Like, does it seem like it was mechanically built and magic is powering it, or is the whole thing magical?
Do a check, investigation. You can with advantage if you're going at it from more of an analytical kind of building
I
minded.
mean, that's an 18 on the die.
Okay.
Yeah, so 19 investigation.
Yeah. It is a giant metal slab that is propelled through magic. There's a lot of powerful magic working it, taking it up and down.
So there's no belt or anything, it's just a slab.
Right. There are some loose connections
It's like
against
Thunder Bluff.
Yeah. There are some connective elements to the wall that it's against, as like it wouldn't be enough. If magic stopped, it would just break off and fall. But there are some things there that do light scraping against the wall to simulate everything. Part of every aspect of it is simulating also a mechanical component to it, as a bit of a
Like as an aesthetic choice?
an aesthetic choice to ease anyone coming up or down. Like the logic of it doesn't necessarily make sense, but there is some sense of it's magic. But if you just knew that it was on the whims of these two people, it might make you uneasy.
Okay.
Like I said, it might not make sense, but
No, it does. It does. I was looking for signs of gnomish engineering in anything I can see.
in that, not with this.
Okay.
This is very much like we do want some people to come up here, not all of them, but how do we do that? Let's make it a lift. And
Got it.
it's a mishmash of different metalworking, nothing unique or it's well crafted, but not character. There's no character to it.
Gotcha.
And yeah, it takes you a few minutes. Feels like a while to get down there as most of the city starts to expand out from you. And it's a nice day, so there's no fog or mist in this later part of the afternoon, and you get a good view of everything. The sun glinting off the sink, as you can see. A lot of it just looks sunken in, and stuff is building on top of it. Again, every few years, Taslinn, you knew that part of Skypoint just keeps going down into the ground and getting sunken and drowned. Mm-hmm. And they just keep building on top of it in the hopes that maybe one day there'll be enough foundation touching the core of this planet that they won't have to do it anymore. And you can also look off from your lift to the east. Yeah, the east, and almost an outer city that looks almost like I guess, mausoleum-esque. They're like a burial burg, if you will. Taslinn notices the Mortberg. Mm-hmm. And that's just a ward where everyone is buried. Not rich, but everyone of any class underneath the Neil is buried there, regardless of how much money they have. And it's a whole partial city section devoted to the dead. It's kind of peaceful, actually. They're pretty unobtrusive. They don't meddle in any city affairs. They just make sure the dead stay dead if they can help it. And Taslinn, you remember some of the druids of the city base out of there too.
Yeah.
And from there you see also the southern expansion of the city itself. Yeah, and then there's walls. So this city is virusing its way out of the walls of the original city. So
That was Johnny, not Drew.
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, that's the view you see. Federer, You're fine, but the rest of you should roll a perception check. Because there's something in the slightly far distance.
6.
6? Okay, you don't see
Probably
it.
not.
I need to roll a perception for myself because without my glasses.
Wow.
Because Yusuf, what's your passive again for the passive?
11.
11? Okay, and yeah. Well,
Perception is a 3, babe.
You'd have to be getting like better numbers here.
21.
21? Mm-hmm. In the passive? Okay, yeah. You see
Wait. Are you asking for passive or are you asking for perception? Because
No, you rolled. It's a perception check.
I'm rolling
Yeah.
the perception check, but I'm just also checking the passives just to kind of get a
no,
gauge.
my passive perception is 13, but I
13.
rolled a 21.
Okay. I'm kind of morphing them together a little bit because Fetter's got so high of everything. He sees it, no problem. But there's a little bit of distraction on your guys' part, and I'm trying to gauge how much here.
To give you reference, my investigation and my insight passives are much higher than my perception.
Got it. Okay. Cool. So yeah.
Because I'm much better about talking and being like, give me your information.
Yeah.
than I am about just noticing shit.
And also, you're just seeing the entirety of your past in panorama.
Yeah.
Essentially. And Yusuf, you just like taking in the view. First time. And Fetter, you see off in the distance someone on they're flying. You squint a little bit and look out, and you can see a tall female furbolg with a mess of shoulder-length hair and a red bow, a dark blue dress, just riding on a broom.
Did you put Kiki in here?
No.
Because that's straight up Kiki's delivery service right there.
Maybe. Just chilling, watching people from the lift, like lift watching, if you will.
Weird.
This furbolg is just eyeing the lift, watching the people come and go. Mm-hmm. No ill will. That's not how they're carrying this stuff. They're just leaning on this broom and just watching with a curiousness to them.
I'll point to Taz and just be like, "Was that a thing? Was this a thing that happens?" And I'll just say, like, "Do you see her out there, just kicking on the broom?"
If you point it out to her, you can catch it.
Okay. I don't know, John. We didn't talk about this. Was this a thing that happened very frequently?
You might not notice it in your time.
Like 8 years that I was here. That's interesting. That's new.
You do know to expect weird things over time, that weird oddities and weird people emerge.
Interesting.
But, like this is a weird one.
I mean, there's a thing about this city that really just brings out the strange.
Okay.
And trust me, the deeper in we get, the more strange it will be. So, not surprised, but also new.
Yeah, it's just the whole way down here, I haven't felt overly like anyone was clocking us, and I feel like that person is paying decent attention to everyone coming up and down the lift.
I wave.
There is a moment, and then they sit up, and there's a moment of consideration. You can see a little bit more in the body language. Fetter just like, okay, this was just kind of I was just being voyeuristic here. Slow wave back, just quick wave, hunching over the broom, and then zooming off. Almost like they were just watching people for the hell of it, and they got caught, and they're like, "Oh no, this is rude. I gotta go."
Fantastic.
That thing at the mall, if you're people watching, and you just kind of get into a daze watching people, and then someone catches you watch them, and then it's really awkward, and it's that shit.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck, shit, I gotta run hide.
Yes. So they're gone. They zoom off pretty quickly. And the lift gently reaches the ground. Just a light as the metallic plates hit the stone. Very gentle. Major props to the two robed individuals working the lift. They don't even acknowledge you guys on the lift, and you exit. And you are now in Skypoint proper, arguably the better part of Skypoint. And you have the city. Just knowing that you are pretty much visible. Like, you are known in the city. Not like everyone's like, "Oh, hey, they're the three tieflings." But you're just not sneaking. It's not sneaky.
Do we still have did she leave us at the top of the lift?
She went down with you, and then as you guys exit the lift, she does hang back, and just is a little too polite to just be like, She just kind of waits for a minute,
Of course.
I will, I'll turn around and, are you...
Yes, I must go back. I have things to attend to. Make sure you guys get your writ to be able to come back. Maybe keep Fee off your back. Figure out what's going on up there.
And if it does, listen, if she gets pouty without us, we'll happily come back and do things, I know that there's occasionally tolls to be paid to keep her reasonable.
Yeah.
But,
and, I mean, she lowers her head for a second. I'm sure she won't mind, but she has seemed of a lonelier sort. And that might not seem as much to you guys having just seen her, but I don't know. Looks like she's going through some stuff.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah. And I don't know her and her relation to you.
That is precipitously kind of you.
It just seemed like whatever she was doing here, I don't know if she's getting what she needs out of it, if that makes sense. She seems very ponderous, a little bit guessing more than she should. And Yusuf, you remember that maybe it's because she's around you and she's been around you a little bit longer now, that she is nosy.
Right.
And when it was her and her secondary, her other, it was a problem. They were.
What's this about? Yeah. What's this about? Yeah.
Yes. So she's they never broke that out of her. This experience that she's had that you've reminisced about briefly, that hasn't been broken out of her. So she's starting to get into that a little bit, but she pulls it back. And sorry, I can't help myself. I am a little nosy, and it just seemed like if you're family, I guess don't stay scarce for her. I don't know. Something's up.
Sure.
Maybe she's always got something, but I don't know. I'm just with her enough to know that
definitely
she's hiding stuff.
Look. Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right.
But I have to leave you here. I cannot go with you. I will come back, but
Zafina, what's the turnaround on this lift? Does it wait for a certain amount of people to go back up, or is it on the timetable? How does it work?
It's just the two people running it. They gauge it as best they can. If there's enough people to make the magic difficult, they intervene and keep people away until the next one comes back. But they pretty much eyeball it, and there's not like crowding around it. It's the people down here don't seem to want to necessarily go up there except to cause trouble, even if that's worth it. I don't know. It doesn't seem like.
How do they?
Let's just say it's not a ride anybody's clamoring to get on.
Yeah. How do they communicate with the top, as far as when to go up and down? Or there's just the one lift, yeah?
Yeah, there are other guards milling about, and generally they do some kind of. They open their minds a little bit.
Okay.
So they rely a lot on magic with this, and they try to downplay it, but they'll listen. And if there are guards up there keeping an eye on just any pooling people waiting for a lift, they'll get a signal. I'm hoping to kind of steal one of those things that they use to communicate to. They've got some stones that they pass around.
Wonderful.
Yes, I need to get back up. So yes, I leave you here. I'll see you around. Hope to see you soon, Yusuf.
Be safe.
I will. She gets the attention of the attendants, and since there's no one else coming and going, it starts to lift. Pretty silent for being a piece of metal. The only thing you do hear is like this, the joints scraping along the side to give them idea that it's connected to the wall. And it goes up and gets out of sight.
He'll keep eye contact with her until it's until it's broken by the lift itself, and then he'll turn and walk.
Yeah, and she keeps the same eye contact, and she goes out of sight.
As we're waiting for Yusuf, because he's like staring intently, I'm just stretching, like doing like the casual like arms over the head, kind of stretching.
I definitely want to. I feel like enough time's passed in our walk down that I'll find an alley or a outside of the way place and call Shoshana back.
Okay. Yeah, it's pretty easy enough. There's a lot of alleys to go around. And, hey, you pick one and give her a call. And once again, you're looking to the rest of your party, and then you turn back, and there she is, right there.
Hey.
Hey.
What do we know from the... Apparently there's some lad named Terry Reliable who was supposed to be manning the place. But he has gone silent. What did you find out?
I got to the place and started to poke in, and it looks pretty messy in there. I'm gonna, if you don't mind, I want to head back and kind of see what's going on. But the door was open when I got there.
Interesting. Well, look around, stay out of sight, and
Okay.
we'll wander that way, I imagine, and be there in maybe an hour or so.
Okay.
I don't know. Taslinn, you know the city better than I do. We're looking headed towards the south wall, I suppose.
Yeah, I'll let you know if something's going on. I'll check it out first, scout it for you, see if there's anything I can get, and come back right away. And yeah, I'll let you know.
All right.
Yeah, just take your time. It seems pretty quiet, other than just the door being open, and I don't know if something's
Interesting.
wrong. I want to try to trigger anything that might be going on. So.
All right. What are we looking at? Several stories? Describe the house for us.
It's just a two-story affair. It's not well kept, but it's not
Unassuming.
yeah, it's very unassuming. Good location. I mean, pretty good location. Whoever picked it, whether it was this Terry guy, or if it was Tiamat herself, or whoever, they picked a good spot. Unassuming. No one seems to care. You traverse through a few of the more open alleys, and eventually you get there, and it's just a good spot. Just just pretty quiet. A little too quiet. So I was just, you caught me during some of the perimeter. I was trying to look for any secret ways in or anything that might have been.
All right, well, carry on. We'll find you when we get there.
Okay, cool. I just didn't want to spook anyone there, so yeah, cool.
No, it's fine.
All right, cool. Welcome to Skypoint. And she disappears.
Give her a little wink right before she poofs off.
Leaving you guys you're in this alley, one of many, many, many alleys, pretty out of the way, unassuming. It's roughly about 3, 4, like a little bit towards the beginning of the later afternoon. Not a lot of people here, and Taslinn, you might notice, like what you said earlier, or what was expressed earlier. Not many people in the city proper necessarily want to go up there, or any people that you would know or associate with. No one's rushing to get up there to be turned away. So almost like this weird class divide has made it so that it's a lift to carry many people up, but not many people are going up, and not necessarily anyone wants to come down. Weirdly enough, it's a weird system there, and it's very exaggerated and not subtle, that divide. But yeah, it's not crowded. No one's trying to get back there, and the streets are pretty casual right now. So you have some benefit of not really anyone caring at the moment.
All right, well, Dayz, you want to lead the way? Do you know if I gave you the neighborhood and a rough approximation of where we're headed? Do you think you could guide us there?
Absolutely. I need to orient myself, but tell me where we need to go.
Okay. I'll show her the contract with the address, and it's a house near the south wall of the city. The family's kept for some time. Now, Taz, do we repeat kind of our very forward march and see who comes out of the woodwork or who may be tailing us, or do we want to stay more sub rosa for this next leg of the trip?
The place that the directions that were drawn on the sheet by Shoshana are somewhere kind of in the south region there.
Got it.
The way I've built the map, sort of out of in character, is specific in general. So that general area specifically in there is not 1-to-1. This is just kind of like south pocket. It's more of just that's how the areas play out. So it's not like it's down this street right here and it's one little pixel right here. That's it. No, it's like it's there in the south region.
Yeah.
Shoshana gave directions.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more loosey-goosey on pedantic details. But in general, yeah, it's towards the southern area. And of course, that would probably be where a Zeph and family safe house would be. That would probably be the place that they could kind of inject in and not be noticed. Because the southern just like Spurgeon gets a lot more of the attention. Just inside the southern area of the city gates, not as much attention. Very unassuming. Not extravagant, not too poor, just there. So makes sense. But not many things enterprising wise get past that. area. It's really difficult. So,
Well, I mean, the further into the city that we get, the less we have to go incognito. It'll be more of a just, falling into the crowd. Is there any reason why you don't want to be seen right now?
No, I'm just, it's your city, it's your play. I'm happy to, again, I think that particularly if House Temper's storming about and, there's a little bit of me that doesn't hate the idea of being seen, at least, when we choose to be seen. But, usually, and I try to keep a low profile.
I'll clasp my hands behind my back and just kind of like rock back and forth on my feet and go, okay. We won't like run the rooftops per se, but we also won't walk the main streets. Sound good?
Sounds great.
Okay.
Lead the way.
Hold on. Let me orient myself and I'll step out of the alley just briefly and kind of like lick my finger and hold it up to the air and turn in a circle and then kind of like turn towards the sink and be like, okay, got it. And then in a single breath, I will also turn my back to the lift and essentially the king's stairway, kneel down so I'm on a knee and my ass is towards the lift and just kind of flip the bird right behind my head.
nice.
And then be like, all right, it's this way, and I point towards the south and start walking.
All right, look at
Nice.
Yusuf and be like, that must be some sort of local tradition, I'm assuming.
Survival of a 24. I mean, I could have told that way's north. I could have told her. All right, let's go.
Yeah, and yeah, you are taking the lead in this traveling through the urban jungle that is Skypoint within the city walls, at least.
Gods help us.
And it's dense, especially as you get towards the south, that southern end, and you start to divert a little bit more east versus the west, where the western side of the city, especially the southwest toward the sink, like all that area starts to kind of conglomerate in terms of just the types of people you meet and the types of stealth you'll need. And you know that you guys are fairly close to the border of where that would be. So you turning away from it and turning around, very particular. Like any further that way and be like, okay, we're now going to be seeing a lot of my past and encountering things from it that I might not necessarily want to show off just yet.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm definitely like, if it wants to find me, it will find me. But
Right.
at the same time,
No,
yeah.
in no hurry to just go hop one street over and be in the territory that you just know so well.
Yeah. But I definitely I take it in a fashion to where they would maybe Feder, if he really paid attention, would be able to notice that like I would pause down an alleyway and be like, let's go this way mentally instead, but not necessarily anything that would
Each
change
one of those
my
I'm
stride.
like, noted.
Noted. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's a different side of Taslinn. Just from what you guys have seen so far in exploration, even in the Shadowfell. This is different energy. Exploring a corner, turn, like you said, a different move set, if you will.
So like imagine like in the anime where you have like those characters that are kind of like would like peer around like around a corner or kind of like walk past and then slowly kind of like do as they lean back to look back. That's very kind of the same characteristic that's happening. Very loose but also kind of
Right. I'm going to do eye for detail, and I want to see if anyone's kind of paying too much attention to us or if anyone's trailing us or anything like that.
Gotcha. Okay.
Oh, look. Well, one of those was a 1, but guess what? Doesn't matter because I roll with advantage. So 11 and 11's 22.
Okay. Just before you start turning east to start following the directions, you do catch 1 or 2 different people just clock Taslinn and have a moment's recognition before just quickly turn their head back, like, having to force themselves to mind their own business again. But there is recognition, not necessarily following or anything, but there is kind of is that her? No. Yeah. Okay. No, just don't look. Don't stare.
Okay.
But yeah, you clock a few people who recognize Taslinn.
Yeah. I'll kind of walk up beside Taz as she's walking, and I was like, well, this is doing what we were hoping. There's definitely a couple of people eyeing you. I'm sure you're aware, but if we ever want to go into stealth mode, just let me know. I think I'd like to perhaps sneak up the last block or two, sneak up on the house before we just walk up and immediately announce ourselves, but...
I'm imagining this is like he's saying that and we're passing by like a fruit stand.
Yeah.
And I will grab an apple, kind of drop a couple coins in like a very flourish kind of turn spin kind of way. Take a bite, give Feder a wink and be like, I figured.
Okay.
Got it.
Yeah.
Just to clarify, you are heading towards the safe house, right?
Yes.
That's the first place you're going to?
Yes.
Okay. It takes maybe 30, 40 minutes, just mainly because of traveling through alleys.
Yeah, and as we get like closer and closer to where I'd approximate the like us to be versus like where the address is, because like I don't know exactly, but it's kind of definitely like you go, I need to get to the street, and now I'm where are the numbers, you know? But as we get to closer and closer to that, I will slowly, just incrementally adjust the zigzags that I'm doing through the alleyways to be the much more kind of like the back alleyways where there aren't really vendors, where there's not really people.
Yeah.
It might stink a little bit because that might be where all like the crap's getting thrown out and stuff like that. But I purposely adjust so we start to take those versus the ones that I was taking previously.
Right. And it's important to note for you, Yusuf and Feder, that the way she's traveling and zigzagging and that is contributing to the length of time, but it's becoming obvious that this is how people like Taslinn or anyone in the city like this travel. No one travels in a straight line. They're up at the Neil, everyone was moseying, casually walking around. Everyone was very much going a direction and going that direction. That was like there was some purpose to it, but they were just point A, point B. This is from point A to point B. There's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Like there's a lot of different subpoints, and a lot of that is just normal, especially with how she's traveling. Nothing is direct. Direct is how people find you, and it's obvious with the way her body language to you guys as she's leading you along. And yeah, so it takes a while longer. It takes, it's always 20 minutes somewhere.
Like you might have even noticed at a certain point if you were really looking that we actually circled back on ourselves maybe once or twice.
18 perception for this trip. I feel like he does notice.
Okay.
And the next time like we cut down a corner and like he knows we're alone, he's going to pull his sword.
Okay.
And just carry it next to him, but so his hand on it and it is out under his cloak. Okay. So that we have the protection from the sword as well, just in case we start, or in case we get jumped or anything.
Gotcha. And her Taslinn's method of travel is like riding a bike almost, just returning back to a normal mode, and your mode is safe and safer than most, just your experience. So, yeah, it's good to have that, but yeah, you don't see it too many people, thankfully enough. Okay. Feder, though, your perception is just awash in all kinds of markings and thieves' cants, and it's not just like any old place where maybe there was one set in Trost.
Right.
For as big as that was, there was probably just one set. Or Edgewater, where since all the crime element was flushed out and anew, the markings were cleaned off. They're rebuilding their crime element. This is just all manner. It is a flood of markings of any kind. Hundreds of little mini factions and mini groupings. It's hard to place. You realize that this is gonna be this. If you want to use these, it's a fun treasure hunt.
Sure.
It is a smorgasbord. It is a buffet of just all kinds of markings of this and that vendor, this guy. Combined with Taslinn's moving you guys about the city, this is a very chaotic way to just shift through the city like sand. It's very, very interesting. But you are just overloaded with all sorts of thieves' information and cants and notches and marks.
Trying to just make sense as we're walking of what I can, at least parse the half dozen different varieties and try to see who's got as we get closer to our who seems to be the more dominant of the ones, I'm gonna try to parse out what I can of just the can't and the messages that, I mean, not stopping to do any of it, but
Yeah.
And again, I've got the criminal background too, so
Yeah.
I feel like I'll be able to reach out to one of these. Like I can at least identify some stalls and shops and taverns that I see marked.
Yeah, and there's one specific one that dominate's not necessarily the right word, because that would suggest that it's ousting everything else. But there's one that is repeated more often than most, and in a way that is kind of confusing, because it keeps saying the cabinet was here. And Taslinn, if you want to do a history check, this is familiar, but
Nat 20, so 22.
I mean, I was basically looking for either a 1 or a 20 on this in terms of like high number, low number. The mercurial cabinet is what you saw in the very first scry, where you noticed that a little thing was being traded off to Igni.
Yeah.
That ephemeral, ethereal, secret place in a cabinet is a traveling place of rogues and ruffians and ne'er-do-wells, and it's a hotspot for them. But it moves. And as such, there are markings everywhere suggesting that the cabinet was here, the cabinet was there. And they just say that it's a weird blatantness that there is a traveling element that keeps these people who look for those haunts on a hunt. But that is that is repeated so often, better that you're noticing that pattern, like cabinet was here. Everything else is like pointing to merchants and different factions. Like you see some notches for they just point different things. It's hard to clarify those, but this one is just the oddest of them all, and that it's just a cabinet. Essentially, it's pointing to a cabinet, and Taslinn would have to clarify that to you. It's a little bit foreign and weird, but very.
Yeah, that out of all, because like I don't know Thieves' Camp, but that would be one that I would recognize, considering my role of Knack was acquiring things for Knacks. Like that would have been a thing that I would have dealt with.
Great place, not secure.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
It is like the neutral zone. Like it's a neutral zone for all sorts of. You might find someone from any of the factions there talking to each other, and it's a safe zone for that.
Hey, Blue. Mm-hmm. What's up with the cabinet? It just sounds like it moves. Is it a literal cabinet? Is this some sort of extra dimensional?
Number 2, yeah, it's sort of extra dimensional. It's a cabinet because, like, you know, it's a cabinet of space that doesn't exist anywhere and moves around, and so yeah, that's the cabinet. It's very kind of, you know, safe space for a lot of the different factions around town to go around and acquire things, and kind of in accords where we don't really do anything, but the second we step out, it's kind of bad, and having it in one spot that stays the same would be bad for it, so it kind of moves around, and that's a way to be like, hey, cabinet was here. But then it gets really confusing because you have all of the cabinet was here, cabinet was here, cabinet was here, cabinet was here, cabinet, and so yeah.
Do you summon it, or do you just find where it is locally? Is it a proper cabinet, or is there like a doorway?
It's essentially a wardrobe.
Yeah, it's a wardrobe that kind of shows up in an alleyway, and you never really know where it's going to show up, and it'll stay there for a little bit of time, and then somebody will be like, "Hey, the cabinet is here," and then it kind of spreads, and then everybody runs to the cabinet, and we meet up, and we exchange, and we go into the wardrobe doors, and you know, extra dimensional space, and then it'll just poof, and then it's a like scavenger hunt to find where the cabinet is the next time.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Fun as hell.
Yeah, it's actually kind of a really cool game when you think about it.
Right. So, all right. Well, I will.
Yusuf is just like
Yusuf
his
has
brow
just
squints.
a very like furrowed brow, just trying to think of what the fuck any of that means.
But the inside of the
does someone
space is
carry just a regular wood cabinet around?
No, I'm sure the cabinet
art?
I'm assuming moves itself.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Oh, it's like the Dark Fortress. Okay, I get it. Never mind.
Yeah.
It poofs in and out into existence.
That was a Krull reference for anyone listening at home.
Oh, I love that.
Got that. 2 points.
Yeah, which of course it can. I'm like.
But how do you know when you're like? Are there multiple doors out or just the one?
Just the one.
Interesting. So
One in and out.
Hopefully you exit where you enter. But I'm imagining it stays within the city. It doesn't. travel too far afield? Or?
Yeah, no, it pretty much stays within the city. It'll bounce around the city at various different times. It stays in a place for like a good chunk of time, maybe like a couple days. So if you go in and you don't, stay for days at a time, which it's really kind of hard to stay for days at a time, you'll pop out the same place that you went in.
Do an Arcana check just as a memory of its functionality, because it's a specific spell function.
Sorry, Black Fortress, not Dark Fortress.
Oh, how could you?
25.
You get the sense that the Mercurial Cabinet has to be remade every so often as a spell for the extra dimensional space, the mansion, as it were, wears off and has to be redone by the proprietor. And that's its incentive to move. Yeah. So once that wears off, it's time to move. So no one can really... Well, there have been people who stay there and then just find themselves in that alley later as they've been spit out as the spell has ended.
Yeah.
Left to whoever might come by and rob them. Sort of like drawing on their a drunk person's face as they're asleep. That's kind of what happens if any criminal who, I don't know, wasn't careful in their drink and decided to spend the night at the cabinet didn't turn out so well.
Yeah. Gotcha.
There's lots of theories behind how and why it exists. I mean, I have my own, but of course, nothing has been confirmed, which is why it's, mercurial.
Properly named. I appreciate it. All right, well, thank you. Onward and upward.
I will turn my attentions to Yusuf and kind of saddle up next to him, throw my arms around it. I'm throwing my arm around one of his arms in a very awkward way because he's much taller than me. Yeah. Just be like, hey, buddy.
What is happening?
So I appreciate your forethought and your desire to protect us. And I'll just kind of like hip bump him, be like, so that probably should stay in the sheath for right now.
Okay.
Let's just say we don't want to invite any, and I'll hip bump him with every word of this, any attentions. Thanks. Advertising, you got to be really spot on about it, and I keep walking.
Nice. Perfect. Totally different. Like, Taslinn has just opened up into a new person that you're noticing, Yusuf. It is a
I definitely flash a glance back at him with a little chuckle and then fall lockstep behind Taz again.
This is her town. And
he's kind of growling like Batman does in the what's the fuck Dark Heroes. It's the one with Constantine, the animated one, where just magic keeps flying all around and Batman's just like Fair enough. All right.
Yeah.
Lead on.
Oh, apart from just the chaotic zigzagginess of it, it doesn't take too much longer from where you guys are now. And you eventually come across two false buildings that look like they're in the midst of a repair. Taslinn, you know that that's not true. There is buildings that are in need of repair. You know them. They exist in the sink because they just keep sinking and falling and losing their foundation. That's disrepair. This is manufactured. And you travel behind those and go through a couple more zigzaggy alleys, and then you find this clearing where there's one building, and it should draw attention, but so much of just that journey past those two buildings is just like a programming switch that would make a program pass by, like a ignore this.
Yeah.
So like no cookies here sort of thing. And there it is. This 2-story building. It's unassuming, bland facade, nothing too stylish. Like Shoshana said, the door is open.
But it sits like a street on all four sides. Like it's not adjacent to...
It's like a more opened alley. So it's like a building in a kind of a clearing alley. So there is alley all around it. But the way the buildings are kind of congregated around it, it's really hard to... It's not really street.
Sure.
It's a very weird and odd configuration that should draw attention, but it's just so tucked away and weirdly placed. Why would anyone?
Right.
So as we walk in to the area, see that, stop. I'll take the final bite of my apple and be like, well, found it, and like throw that and just toss the apple.
I'm sure this safe house will be perfectly fine. They will walk in and have no troubles whatsoever. Oh, God, it's like you've never heard me tell a story before. Anyway, I seem to have consumed all of your ale. So that means I must go patch things up with President Juggers, or, patch up President Juggers, that poor little bastard. Anyway, I'll be back before you know it with another exciting tale from these Demon Days.
Great.
Yeah.
Pause. Thank you.
Nice.
Sorry, I leaned forward and hit my head against the microphone. I was
you
like,
sleepy boy. You doing
fading for
okay?
a second.
Yeah.
Damn.
I fucking love Kiki's delivery service.
Yeah, the second you were like black hair,
Red
bow
bow.
tie, I was like broom,
Yeah.
and then you were like blue dress.
Blue
I was
dress.
like, hold up.
Yeah. And if I can get one, and maybe, as they change a guard or replace one or remagic it or something.
Damn it.
That's 11.
I think the food's here.
Oh. there was at least two. There was at least two
I'd know
people
that ass anywhere.
Right.
who were like, and it's hard to say. There is maybe a sense of fear. Maybe a sense of fear. Bong. Maybe a sense of fear. Bong.
Was told the dead.
Yeah. And then there's use of just tolling the dead left and right. It's
Right.
getting messy.